Thank you so much for joining us. We're trying to do a nice series of videos where we kind of talk about different industries, problems going on in the industries, and right now we're focusing on mining. But before we jump into that, if you could take a minute, introduce yourself, tell us what you do, where you're from, and all that.
Well, thanks for having me. My name's Eric Stone, and I live in Bristol, Virginia, and I'm with the Product Enhancement Group here with High Torque. I've been in the mining industry for 42 plus years now. So I have called on surface mine operations, underground operations, from coal to copper to palladium, silver, and things of that nature.
Nice. So I'd say in that amount of years, you've seen a thing or two in mining.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I actually have a electrical background, a data community background, and a ventilation background as well.
Awesome. So in mining, over all these years you've seen, what would you say some like or even if you pointed out one, like what are the biggest challenges going on in that industry?
Safety for one. Yeah. But as far as in the bolting industry, what I see is a lot of people don't do the proper torquing procedures. Gotcha. And it's very important to have your bolt tension to be able to have the joint compatibility with that.
And then when it comes to, we'll say, bolting failures, so what are some of the examples of situations that have happened?
Some of the bolting failures that I've seen is a lot of people are still using impact wrenches. Yeah. So you can either over tighten or under tighten the bolt, which that causes concerns with the equipment and safety aspect of it as well.
Yeah. And what's it sounds almost a funny question, but like, what's the problem with over tightening or under torquing?
You have a problem with the bolts breaking off or the equipment coming apart.
What happens if someone just continues down that way? They just continue with the old methods that they're doing right now. What are the implications that leads to down the road?
Failures of equipment, people getting injured.
And speaking of like safety, what have you seen as to be the biggest risks? Is it pinch points, or is it just, especially with you talking about the wrong torque being done?
Operator error.
Okay.
Because they don't have the proper training as far as bolting procedures goes.
Gotcha.
And then I think that as far as they need to implement a maintenance schedule to be able to go back and recheck the bolts due to the fact of the environment and check and see if the bolts is loosened up or the bolts have broken during the operation of the mines.
And what's that like ideal scenario for them? Like what is the ideal setup for them to where they can do it right, not have as much downtime?
I think as far as the proper training and the protocols for the safety aspect of it, bolting procedures, and then you take a look at what is the cost of impact when you have an incident. Yeah. You know, it's hard, $250,000, $300,000.
Yeah, we had a great conversation, I think it was on the first episode that we did of this, where we talked about training and how there's such a resistance to it because, they don't want their team having to stop what they're doing and go out and do trainings on. And then you're like, okay, but what's the cost of one incident happening? Right. And then the second they look at that, it's like, yeah, no, it's actually far, far cheaper to just pay for training and get it done.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think in this case too, I mean, the washer it's such a simple thing, almost to the point where when it's on there and people see it and see how it uses it and there's no reaction arm to it, that they're like, it can't be that simple. It can't be like, it not only cannot be that simple, it can't be that simple and that accurate. And you're like, no, it is.
Right. And another instance is Wayne Machinery, they're a cat dealer as well, and they've started using the washers. But the shop foreman up there ended up doing a time study between the conventional way you done torquing and using the washers, and they ended up saving 3.5 man hours. Wow. So, you take a look at that too, you include that and then plus the safety aspect of it, that's quite a bit of savings right there.
Yeah, and I would imagine too, it's like not only the time savings, but then you have the accuracy behind that. Yes. And everything. And then, time savings also doesn't just mean the job's done quicker, it means you're back up and running faster.
Right. And then too, I mean, you're going to have more longevity on the tool itself because you eliminate all the side load, especially on the bolting on the tool itself.
Yeah. Have you started to see in the mining industry in general an appreciation for things like the digitalization aspects for it, the data that capturing?
Not at this present time.
Okay.
Not at this present time. I mean, we've talked about it, but it seems like the mining industry is not there yet.
Yeah.
I do know that some of the companies is manufacturing load monitoring bolts, which it's starting to take off a little bit. But I think once that people see the need of it, I think as far as the LST with our app and what have you, that would be a great tool for them because that way it would actually start a maintenance program per se for them, like a preventive maintenance program for them.
Yeah.
And that way, you know, they can check who what mechanic did the job. They can keep a record of whenever the truck comes in. They can check see what the torque ranges was and see if the bolt has loosened up and what have you. So I feel like that's going to come down the road.
Gotcha. And then what do you typically say to somebody who, is in that, I'll just stick with what works? Yeah.
Well, of course, I give them examples of what I've seen out in the field, but I hate to say it, but, I told you so, if that comes to happen, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I almost feel you want to say, like, I don't want to have to tell you, I told you so.
Right. That's very true. That's very true.
I think, you show them that example of what's possible and what that means, not just from a safety aspect, but an accuracy aspect. I mean, like every part of it, I feel like it's one of those things too where they're kind of like, we just want to continue on with what we're doing, and it's like, okay, but it's slower, it's less accurate, it's far more dangerous, and then you have your example
for sure.
So when it comes to us here, like at High Torque, what's our solution? What is like the High Torque solution to all this?
Our High Torque solution is the washer technology. Plus, I think we need to set up maybe like lunch and learns or what have you to do training with the mine personnel and make sure that they do the proper bolting techniques and then the safety aspect of the tool itself, checking the pumps, the hoses and things of that nature.
And do you have like another sort of success story of where somebody was going from whether it's an outdated method or anything like that to where they are now?
Well, yes, I do. This has to deal with underground mining equipment on longwall mining systems. There's typically you have a shear, an AFC, which is an armored face conveyor, and then you have a stage loader as well. And inside that stage loader, there's a crusher. So over the past several decades, the operators has been using super nuts. So therefore, as a super nut, it takes time to torque all those jack screws and everything like that. So over the past couple of years, we've been fortunate enough to be able to implement the high torque nut to replace the super nuts. And it's worked out very, very well because once you get that on is at the mine site, a lot of those bits do break off. And so they have to replace them during their downtime and what have you. So they're stocking those nuts on the shelf. So it's been an amazing product just to get there, but like I say, the super nut has been around for a long time. So I'm really excited about that aspect of the product because there's a lot of opportunity out there, and there's so many longwall systems throughout the world. So, anyways, but I'm excited about that product.
And then the High Torque nut as well is reaction arm free.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Another safety aspect right there.
Because another thing too, on a longwall system, if you have a major component go out on a longwall system, it's $12,000 a minute downtime.
Wow. Is there an average amount of time that typically is that down for?
It could be for 3 hours. Depending on what goes down, whether it's a motor or a chain breaks into or some bits break off the crusher, it just all depends.
So if somebody is now, they hear what you're saying, they go, okay, fine, there's a better way than me just hitting a wrench with a hammer, let's say. Why high torque? Why should they talk to high torque?
Because high torque knows bolting, and we're the game in town.
I mean, I think you started this whole thing off saying enough where it's like, you've been doing this 42 years, right? And it's just like, if someone who's doing it for 42 years doesn't know the ins and outs of the industry, it's, I try to explain that so many times when I talk with people, where it's just like, we don't just have people who are kind of sort of familiar with the industry. It's like people who've been in this industry across all industries that we cover. We've seen everything.
Right. And I mean, even on, your shuttle cars and scoops, I mean, those are used basically in the coal industry. On the wheels, a lot of they'll just run an impact up or whatever, and they'll run that. And then I've seen wheels come off, and they wallered the holes out in the rims and things like that. And then there you are as far as downtime goes and everything like that. So, because typically you get 12,000 hours, and then you have to replace a strut. Well, this company got 20,000 hours just by using our washers.
Wow.
Versus just your standard hardened washer.
I mean, that's another amazing example. If somebody's now, they want to get started with this, they want to learn something, what do you recommend as like their first step? Is it like a lunch and learn kind of thing?
Yes.
And what do they get out of that?
Well, at least with the lunch and learn, you'll get the maintenance superintendent, you'll get the mechanics there, you'll get the safety department there. So you'll have all those departments in one room.
And what are you showing them typically in this?
Showing them the battery gun, the LST. We're showing the MXT Plus, the Stealth, and of course the washer with the tube flange as well.
Okay, and they're also learning, not just looking at it, learning how to use it.
Right. And I do know that some of our field people do training sessions at some of the mines and stuff like that. So they'll set up a time to do training, and they'll bring all the tooling in, and they'll go over the tools and go over the pumps and make sure how to hook up the hoses and things like that, which is very important as well.
But the lunch and learn at least is that first glimpse as to what's possible. Yeah. Awesome. Past that, if you have anything else to share, I mean, we are good. That's all the questions I had.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks
for having me.